Welcome to this video, and I'm going to show you how to make the ball jump. So at the moment, we can only move it in sort of two dimensions. We moved it along the x-axis, right, which is sort of left to right, which works fine, and then back and forth, which in this game is along the z-axis, okay? So into the screen and out of the screen kind of idea. We want it to be able to go into the y direction, so we want to make this ball jump. So let me show you what you could do in the code here. I'm going to show you one way, I'll show you the way to get it to jump, and then show you sort of the issue with it. Now what you'll notice here is that we had it set up so that there was zero velocity on the vertical, okay, or on the up and down. We call this move vertical, but we're kind of sort of doing the jump here. So we only had controls for the left and right and the up and down. So what I'm going to do, let's do it down here. I'm just trying to remember what I did do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in an if statement. And with that if statement, I'm basically going to say if they press the key, the space bar, we're going to jump it. So I'm going to do input dot get key down, and then we're going to do key code. There it is, key code dot space. So we're going to use the space bar to jump. Now you could choose any other key, but I'm just using the space bar here. Now, once we've got that, we're going to add force again. So we're going to do rb.add force. And what we're going to do is I'm going to keep the x and z 0, but we're going to add force on the y, which is the vertical, pushing it up. So what I've got there is a simple little bit of code. Oops. Go. There we are. So if they press the spacebar, it should force it up in the vertical direction here. So I'm going to press save it, go back to Unity, and just make sure that that works. Clear those errors away. Experimenting in there. And so if we press the spacebar, not getting any movement. Now that could be one of two things. Primarily, it could be that this number is not big enough. So sometimes I say, well, go big or go home. So I'm going to just put that in. And I want to make sure. So I just make it 100. So 10 times bigger. Try again. And there we go. So you can see I'm getting a little bit of a jump there. So maybe that's not enough. I need to add a bit more force to it. So maybe 1,000 we'll try. And then, I mean, you have to just sort of fine tune it there. So there's just really sort of, trial and error to get the right number. This is probably too much, but it will sort of serve our purpose. Yes, so now it shoots up pretty high, and then it comes back down. Now, one thing that you'll notice is that if I press it again, I can keep going up, going up, going up, and so on. So that's probably not the best idea. So let's just find a better number here. Maybe about, we'll go 300. That should give us a happy medium there. But like I said, we can double, triple, quadruple jump. In fact, if I go back, saving that again, make sure that you'll see it easier here. But I could just continue flying forever. And that's probably not what you want. So that's a decent jump there. Okay, but like I said, I could just keep going, right? And that's kind of not the best. So I'll show you a little way around that. What we have to do is detect whether or not we're on the ground. So I'm going to come up to the top here. I'm going to create something called a Boolean. I'm going to make it public just so we can see. Bool, and I'll call it on ground. Now at the start of the game, we'll set on ground to be true. True. Okay, so it will say that it is on the ground. We know that it's going to start on the ground at the start. This will mean that for the ball to jump, not only do you have to push down the space bar, but, so we can put an and here. This has to be true as well. So the double ampersand represents and. On ground must be true. Okay, so in other words, you have to be on the ground in order for the spacebar to let it jump. Okay, so those two conditions have to be true. Now, how do we know if we're on the ground? Excuse me. So what we're going to do here is void on collision enter. Okay, so this is going to be a collision enter, and it's almost the same thing here. So if collision dot, I think we can do the same thing in dot compare tag, and that compare tag, we're going to set this compare tag up in a second, but if it's called ground, what we will do is we will set the on ground to true. So this is going to let us basically, once it leaves the ground, once it gets back to the ground, to set it to true. Now the one thing that we didn't do was up here. So once we jump, what we have to do is, because now it will be in the air, we have to set on ground to false. So let's just sort of run through that again. So the idea is that if we press the space bar and we're on the ground, then it will jump and it will set on ground to false. So that will prevent us from double jumping. Okay? So once it's in the air, it's on ground is false. But once it comes back and touches the ground, so this is where this on collision enter occurs, then it's going to set on ground to true again. Now one thing we have to do is we have to tag our ground. So we'll do that in a second here. But that should work. So I'm just going to save it. Go back to Unity. And I'm just going to look here for the ground. There's my ground. Now, I already did this previously, but what I would have to do, of course, is go to add a tag called ground, and then make sure that the ground is tagged ground. Okay? So let's take a look at this. I'm going to click on the player so that we can see the code. Here's our script. And so what I'm looking for is this on ground. And we notice the box is off at the moment. That means false. Once it's checked, it means true. So what I'm just going to do is sort of watch what goes on here. So on ground is true. So let's see if I can jump. I can jump. Notice how it goes on and off. And I cannot double jump. Perfect. So we've got that working. Now we can move the ball around and jump it, but we can't double jump or sort of fake it. Now, if any other surfaces, right, if you've got more of an elaborate layout than I do here, you're obviously going to have to tag those ground as well if you want it to be able to continue jumping as you move to different surfaces. All right? But that should give you a good idea about how to get your ball to jump.